I've seen a few debates online surrounding a particular subject, and I want to put my own spin on the debate. This is a seemingly niche argument, battled by the likes of the hardcore player base and the nerds who love FPS games. There's no beating around the bush here anymore. The question I hope to answer today is Halo considered an arena FPS? Hello everybody, my name is KINGJAKYL, and I'm the one that's just crazy enough to poke that bear. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like down below. So, what's the big fuss about this, you might ask? Why is this even a debate to begin with? There's only a handful of videos addressing this in full, and only a few more just glossing over the facts. And with that, only two creators come to mind. One, straight up, outright saying it might have been what started the downfall of arena FPS altogether, the Act Man. And another one which kind of went in depth, but it felt a little bit more scattered at the beginning, and that of Favyn. Why does this even matter to someone like you? Before I can give you those facts, I'm gonna need to give you a brief history lesson first. And what a better place to start other than the daddy of them all, Doom.
What's Doom got to do with arena shooters, you moron?
Well, I tell you this, if you would start munching on your Cheetos and let me get to the point. But first, we need to go back in time to a time in which the term FPS didn't even exist yet. A time where you only had Wolfenstein, Doom, or a term coined back in the day, Doom clones. While I understand Doom is better known for its single-player experience, Doom introduced the world to Deathmatch, a multiplayer-based experience in which you can fight other players to the death. Simple concept, really. And so long as no one in the house started using the landline, your experience was a non-stop thrill ride. It wasn't much, but it planted the seeds that would later grow the desire for a multiplayer experience that is so beloved by so many. Shortly thereafter, Macintosh got their very own successful Doom clone in the form of Marathon, made by Bungie, which not only had a competent single player with a well thought out and deep storyline, but a kick-ass land-based multiplayer, which was often blamed for lost time in the Bungie development office. But when was the first shooter to truly earn the Arena Shooter title released? I'd hazard a guess and say on November 22nd of 1999. Epic Games released Unreal Tournament, a game which standardized what multiplayer FPS would be for years to come, creating a lot of core elements we consider standard in multiplayer titles today, such as practice mode with bots to test the player's skill, mettle, and more. It also came with fair and equal starts, and it also had health pack and armor economies. A key defining trait of FPS shooters are the focus on the multiplayer aspects of the game, with studios like Acclaim also throwing their hat into the ring with Turok Rage Wars, which is also a multiplayer-focused FPS title, which I didn't necessarily hear about or learn about until I did a little bit of research just to get the information I needed for this topic. Then, of course, id Software yet again releasing another future classic, Quake 3 Arena. While I do hear you in the back. But what about the first two Quakes, I hear you saying? While they are very important to the journey, I would almost hazard that Quake 3 is the most important of that trilogy in defining what Arena FPS is. Quake 3 combines all the core elements of what makes an Arena FPS what it is, and turns the dial all the way up to 11 only in the way id Software could. Now, where does Halo fit into all of this? Halo was released only a short time after Quake 3 Arena in 2001, but wasn't always designed as the first-person shooter we know and love. It was originally designed to be a real-time strategy game using the code name during development of Monkey Nuts. But over time, it later developed into a third-person shooter, and shortly thereafter, it developed into the first-person shooter we know and love today. Well, you made it this far into the video. Don't forget to subscribe and please leave a like, as it allows me to stay on the platform and keep making content for you guys. Arena shooters have several distinct core elements to them. Among them are the following. First, an emphasis on multiplayer elements and gameplay. Secondly, you have fair and equal starts, and everyone starts with the same weapons and abilities. Thirdly, long time to kill values. Fourthly, you have on-the-map weapon pickups, upgrades, and power-ups. Followed from that, you have fast-paced action and movement. You also don't have weapon carry limits. You have a health and armor management economy. And lastly, there's arenas. Duh. Now, I can already hear you guys chomping at the bit saying,
Well, Halo has most of those things.
and I'd have to agree with you to some extent. Halo does share some of those core elements with arena shooters. All but a few exceptions. Halo has weapon limits. The core elements to Halo's design balance hinges on the fact you can only carry 2 weapons, making the player play with intention. Instead of just picking up weapons and selecting from a wheel like what's in every other arena shooter, you can only carry 2 weapons, and it's up to the player to decide what weapons to pick up and use at any given time. And while yes, Halo does have fair starts and on-the-map weapon pickups, just like any other arena FPS, Halo also gives a damn good reason as to why you have your weapon limit. Instead of a semi-competent starting weapon that's equivalent to shooting a hail of Nerf darts at a seemingly tanky opponent, like the machine gun in Quake 3 and the Enforcer pistol in Unreal Tournament, you have what's known in the community as a utility weapon. I've seen several videos stating that, well, only in Classic Halo you start with an SMG. That's only in Halo 2. In Halo Combat Evolved, guess what? You get 2 utility weapons at the start. The assault rifle and the pistol. And then when you get into later titles, yes, in Halo 2, on some modes, you did spawn with an SMG and a pistol. And that pistol was, well, the equivalent of shooting Nerf darts at a paper bag. It did nothing. And in Halo 3, you did have assault rifle starts. But that doesn't tell the whole story. With those weapons, overall, in Combat Evolved, you did have your pistol, which, under the right circumstances, could get you a 3-shot kill with headshot, although wasn't always guaranteed. In Halos 2, 3, 4, and now Infinite, you have the battle rifle, which, with the right shot placement and network permitting, Halo players, you know that pain, it's almost always guaranteed to have a 4-burst kill. And lastly, you have the DMR in Halo Reach and 4. Technically, it's an Infinite, but that's up to the Halo fan base to realistically count that, yes or no. While it's a very competent DMR-like gun and it feels really nice to use, I don't know where I stand on that. You have a 5-shot kill with that DMR, so long as you aren't struggling with aim and bloom. Halo, by design, is slower. I can already hear Halo competitive players shouting from the rooftops saying, Halo's fast-paced and has fast action. In gunfighting, yes, I would agree. But in terms of movement speed, I'm going to have to knock off some points for that. Halo, by design, minus a few titles, didn't have sprint and was supposed to be slower and more floaty. Your base movement speed is faster in comparison to the likes of Medal of Honor or Call of Duty. Halo rewards more in the ways of skill jumps and positioning and holding down a point. You're always fighting for a power position, or a power weapon, or a power-up. Or you might be defending a flag or defending a hill in King of the Hill. While it's wise to move in Halo, it's not always necessary. In games like Quake 3 or Unreal Tournament, if you're stationary for too long, you're likely to get insta-gibbed waiting on that respawn. It's actually right. Respawns, I almost forgot. Halo has a respawn timer, designed and forced upon the player as a way for the player to reflect on what they did wrong and how they need to adjust to address what got them killed. In other arena FPS titles, you don't have to wait. As soon as the scoreboard shows up, you could respawn on your command. Halo was designed to be a party game first, a lot like that of Mario Party. The multiplayer design lead for Halo Combat Evolved, Hardy LaBelle, had said this on Twitter, and I quote, "My goal was to make a fun party game with shooter mechanics. I wanted a shooter Nintendo would have been proud to release." To some, that's final nail in the coffin.
I knew it. Halo isn't an arena FPS.
I hear you saying. It's pretty hard evidence that a design lead outright says it's a party game and not an arena FPS. But he never said it wasn't. Or did he? In another quote, he also said this: "Intention informs all design choices. In my opinion, the intention of arena shooters are opposite of the original Halo multiplayer." These quotes are from a Twitter thread between this developer and a fellow YouTuber, Favyn, who also covered their opinion on the subject in their own video. But does intention equate to reality? I could intend for a car that I designed to be a daily driver, but unintentionally build a Lamborghini Huracan. You can intend for something all you want, but that doesn't change what the fuck it actually is. But enough with differences. How is Halo like arena shooters? Firstly, Halo shares a lot of the same DNA. Let's not forget, Bungie designed one of the most competent Doom clones from Macintosh, and so good in fact, it was called a Doom killer. And like how id Software went from Wolfenstein to Doom and later the Quake trilogy, which is an arena FPS shooter by the way, and pioneered what is to be standard for arena shooters alongside Unreal Tournament. It can be easily argued that Bungie went along the same trajectory with Marathon into Halo Combat Evolved. Quake was an evolution in FPS, taking it from 2D emulating 3D environments like in Doom and Doom 2, and making a fully 3D rendered environment. Bungie did the same thing. And in 1994, they did it with Marathon, taking the core identity that was Doom and changing it slightly, and then adding on to it. One of those changes was being able to aim up and down. Radical idea back in the day, I know. Something that if a shooter today didn't have, would be laughed out of the market. It's a standard for FPS games today to be able to look up and down and move side to side and be able to aim freely. And like the example I gave for Doom into Quake, I'm also going to make the comparison of Marathon into Halo. Now, before anyone starts yelling and starts coming for my throat about what a Halo was originally designed to be, yes, I do recall that I said earlier that it was originally supposed to be an RTS. I'm going to say this once for the people all the way back, all the way up in the nosebleeds. I am making the comparisons on the finished products. There are similar design languages because Bungie is famous for scrapping projects last minute, only to rebuild it from the ground up, only mere months before a release deadline. They did it with Marathon. They did it with Halo, specifically Combat Evolved, and Halo 2. I'm not sure which other titles they did it with. I have to do more research on that. Halo does have fair starts, with the exceptions of Halo Reach and Halo 4, which had loadouts, which the player could either customize on their own, like in the case of Halo 4, or they were given a set list with different armor abilities, like in Halo Reach, eliminating power pickups or equipment pickups altogether. Halo's original trilogy, as designed by Bungie, gave every player equal opportunity to excel in a match, with equal opportunity for weapon upgrades and pickups along the way. You also had equal access to power weapons and power-ups on the map. In Halo Combat Evolved and in Halo Reach, health packs are on the map as well, which, in case you didn't remember, was a constant thing in many arena FPS shooters. Now, I do understand a core element to Halo is its shield regeneration system, which, when you spawn, does give you a fair chance to face whatever problems you may endure throughout the match. Halo's health system is strange, and it evolves slightly after CE. In Combat Evolved and in Reach, you have your shield health, and then you have your actual health. Your shield can always regenerate given enough time in between fights. But in Combat Evolved and in Reach, you also have health values that do not regenerate, similar to that of older arena titles. It required the player to pick up health packs to get their health back. In Halo Combat Evolved, the way it worked, you had 75 points of health, you had 75 points of shield. So even if you were down to 1% of health, you could conceivably almost always have 75 points of shield available to you. But in Halos 2, 3, 4, and Infinite, your health works slightly differently. Your shield bar is all that's displayed. But you still have health of sorts. But unlike Combat Evolved and Reach, that does generate alongside your shields, eliminating the need to gather health packs. But wouldn't that be the difference and not a similarity, you might be saying? In a way, yes, and in others, not really. Halo still has power-ups and equipment that are pickups in most titles. One pickup is that of Overshield, which doubles your shield health for a period of time, allowing you to soak up more damage. A lot like how armor pickups work in Quake and other Arena FPS titles. And then you also have health regen, like in Halo 3 and 4, which allow you to regain health quicker during a fight. Halo has long time to kill values. Well, sort of. Remember how I said Halo has utility weapons and regenerating health? In most Arena FPS shooters, time to kill varies due to many factors, like whether or not you're using a certain kind of weapon, or if your target is further away than what's optimal, or if you have maxed armor and health, or if they have maxed armor and health. In Halo, you know how many shots it's going to take to kill with any given weapon, period. The only variations you have to deal with are your aim. Did you headshot? Did you body shot? Does my opponent have any overshield? Am I fighting someone in a shield drain? Or am I fighting someone using health regen? Are they strafing really well? Other than those things, it's really consistent. You can always count on your weapon to do what it's intended to do. And so long as you stay on target, fights only last a few seconds. And with a few minor exceptions, with the use of power weapons, it's rarely over in a blink of an eye. In Halo, you fight in arenas. I know this is a sort of low-hanging fruit, but I still find this to be rather important. For the most part, in Halo, you do fight in arena-style maps, the likes of Wizard and Hang 'em High, as well as Beaver Creek and Midships. They all have simple arena designs and layout. And most early Halo maps also incorporate the use of teleporters, another staple in arena FPSs. The use of teleporters allow for greater range of movement and quicker access to power-ups or power weapons, or can be used to get an advantageous position a lot quicker, more aggressively. You're also typically boxed in with no means of entry. You didn't ask questions. You don't wonder how you got there. All you care about is, where's my enemy? Where did they spawn? And every map, even the ones where it's not blatantly obvious that it's actually an arena, it's still an arena. You still have the same map flow and layouts, just like your typical arena shooter. So what's Halo then? Does it meet the requirements to be called an arena FPS? Some would feel rather satisfied with the facts laid out and say, yes, Halo is indeed an arena shooter. It meets most of the requirements. But if you asked anybody that's played Quake, Unreal, or any of the old school arena shooters, they would have laughed at you, paused for a second, and wondered if you had brain damage. Remember that I said it shared most of the elements with arena shooters, but not all. It leaves the question, would this make Halo an arena shooter or not? Some claim it to be an evolution of that specific genre, changing just enough to make it more accessible to a wider audience, while not destroying every element of what makes up an arena shooter. Others claim it strays too far, and it takes away too many of the core elements for it to even count. And because of that, they feel it needs to be classified differently, Let me know your opinions down below. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. The guy that's sitting down on your couch or in your recliner or even in your computer chair or even just sitting on the toilet on your phone. Yeah, you. Quit missing out on the rest of my content, man. Please subscribe. Leave a like. Smash that like button even. And also, check out this video down here in the corner. You might enjoy it. And as always, you guys are awesome. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.